The worst decision I ever made, I will never go back to doing this again. And it cost me thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. This was exactly what I heard from a client the other day. And I'm going to go through exactly what they went through so that you can learn the lessons without having to go through it yourself. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Will De Bruin. I co-founded an e-commerce business in 2013 with my brother. We left our corporate jobs, started our business from the kitchen bench and cold press juicy and cleanse programs. And 12 years on, I've now helped over 200 e-commerce brands scale their businesses to their first 10K all the way up to 100K per month online. So welcome to this video. What I want to go through is this exact discussion I had with this client, and it seems to be coming up more and more and more with especially people who are in those early stages of their business, but then this decision or this choice or this option becomes more attractive for people as they do tend to scale and look to diversify as well. So let's jump into it. So the discussion is around if you've got an e-commerce business, you're obviously doing online transactions only. Let's call it you're doing retail transactions. And the decision or the costly decision that I see over and over, or that people grapple over, is to go down the wholesale route. Okay, now typically this is supplying retail stores, for example. Sometimes it's even supplying other online stores with your product at wholesale rates. So what this typically looks like is you've got your retail price that you sell your products for. A really typical way to do the wholesale route is to basically charge half of your retail price to that wholesaler or that retailer, and then they charge the same price as you. So they're making 50% margins. You're charging 50%, but obviously you got your cost of goods in there. That's typically what the arrangement is. The predicament that people find themselves in is like this, again, decision of, should I just do this, or this is the trade-off. And let me call it the trick that or the lie that they tell themselves is, I can do everything, or in this case, I can do direct-to-consumer retail, I can do business-to-business wholesale. And I say that it's a lie because of what I'm actually going to go through in terms of their growth and inhibiting their growth. Okay, so now let's just talk about the decision and how this sort of comes up. It might come through you seeking people out. It might come from really likely people seeking you to come and sell your products. Now, especially when we're kind of starting out, it's very flattering to get people coming to you wanting to buy your products, especially that wholesale. We had that a lot when we started our cold press juice company. We had cafes, food delivery services and things wanting to buy our juices at wholesale rates to sell retail to their customers to add value. Makes complete sense. And we did this, and I'll tell you some lessons and some scars we actually got from it. But the temptation is moving more volume. Okay, moving more volume, seeing more dollars come through. It's just, the lifeblood of any business is the cash flow. But often we're kind of blinded by that and not understanding the repercussions, which I'll go through in a second, which I want to obviously talk you through and warn you of, basically. And the temptation really is that, okay, if only I could do a few more sales on the wholesale side, that'll cover some overheads. There's all my expenses for the month, for example. That's the common conversation we have. Let's jump into the problems. All right, so where wholesale seems really simple. Again, you might be saying this to yourself, or you said this to yourself in the past, where you're just like, it's just a couple of margins here, it's just a couple of volumes here, it's just a couple of people I'm looking after over here. The first thing is definitely margins. Okay, if we're cutting at least 50%, I'd say a standard rate is kind of 50% of our retail value. There goes basically direct profit, because you're making 100% on your retail sales, you're not even making 50% on your wholesale sales, then that's literally 50%. So you're left with your 50% of what you're selling it for, cost of goods, and anything else in terms of subscriptions and overheads, and you might be left with a very slim margin. It might even be, less than 10%, for example, for most people, maybe even 5%. So you have to think about what that looks like. It might look great in terms of volume and revenue, but when we're talking about profitability and bang for buck in terms of profitability, very, very slim margins. The other thing is around maintaining customers, meaning wholesalers. Okay, again, you might seem like it's not a big deal. It's an email here and there. It's this order form here and there. But this pulls you away from other things that you should be doing. Okay, it's attention grabbing, and you still have to maintain and manage these people. You have to top people up. They come to you when they need extra stock, right? Sorting out other things like payments and just general stock levels. In addition to that, you need to go and find more people. Okay, you might have churn from certain stores. You might find that some turn over stock more than others, some just sit there for ages. So there's a management component which takes time and headspace. The third thing is around stock levels. This is, again, something that we see quite a lot, is that if a wholesaler is doing really well, which is always a good thing, obviously we've got the margins and we've got the maintenance, but there's also the thing of stock levels, right? It's a big enough challenge for businesses to maintain popular items within their own retail store, online store. And then if they have to give priority because they're pre-sold to the wholesalers, that leaves us on the other end at basically a deficit in stock that we actually need. So then we have to go and order more, of course, not a problem, but it might be lead times. It might be a bad time of year like Christmas and Black Friday periods when we actually need the stock. So they suck a lot of the stock from us that we could actually sell retail. So it's that opportunity cost, especially when our products are in demand across the board. Okay, it's tempting again to feed that wholesale that might be doing some volumes for you, but you're basically shooting yourself in the foot by accepting 50% less margins than what you could be getting. And we've seen this several times, especially when it comes to wholesalers. The next level down is like distributors. Less margins, but higher volumes. Again, on paper looks great from a revenue perspective, but margins just way too thin and they take all of your stock. The fourth thing is around payment terms. Okay, you get a retail order, ching ching, money's there, right? Basically prepaid. Obviously you got the stock and a few things behind that, but paid up front. When it comes to wholesalers, they want 30-day terms, 60-day terms, 90-day terms. That in itself really hamstrings your cash flow. Obviously, if you have to go and buy more stock, which is a bulk purchase, you've got to front that cash. And a common scenario, I won't say the worst case, but it probably is that you get paid late or not even at all. Because let's be honest, physical stores and retailers that buy wholesale products are struggling across the board. That's a generalization, but they are. And so if you think as a supplier that they're going to pay you first, you've got the wrong idea. They're going to pay their rent first, they're going to pay their utilities, their lights don't go off, their water doesn't go off, right? So often we're left holding the basket and holding that bad debt. Okay, so again, with the maintenance and management, it's an absolute nightmare and it's taking your attention away from other things, driving more sales and creating more profit and more revenue, obviously with margins, okay? The fifth thing is the biggest thing. And this is what I really want to draw your attention to. And again, the lessons learned. The detraction of your focus, okay? The person who tries to catch two rabbits catches none. That means if you try and pursue your direct-to-consumer, your online store, and the wholesalers with basically a separate business plan, right? Different strategy, different management, different skills, you're not going to be successful at either, at least to a certain extent. So your focus by splitting it 50-50, if that's what it looks like, because that's what we think it is anyway, basically pulls 50% of your attention away from the main thing that you're trying to build, which is your online store. That is the biggest thing. All of those things that I mentioned are stresses and can be avoided. But if you're thinking, if only I got more wholesalers, if only I got more this, and this, you're chasing those people over there and you're wondering why your online's struggling, it's because half of your attention at least is being pulled away from the main thing. So focus is massive and I can't even quantify that. But those 5 things that I mentioned accumulated together cost businesses that split their attention like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands per year. Now, I'll tell you the example of Karmic in 2013, actually. Okay, so we basically created cold pressed juice. We manufactured ourselves. The inputs are very expensive and high touch, right? We have to produce it ourselves, literally in a cold press juicing machine. So we actually started because we had the same idea as everybody else. Let's try and wholesale in cafes. And as I mentioned before, some food delivery services as well. So we learnt these lessons over like a good 12-month period. The thing for us that pushed us over the edge was the margins. Okay, again, we looked at volumes, we looked at cash flow, we looked at turnover, and those things looked okay. But when we really reviewed it and said, we're not making any money off of this, right? It actually cost us almost 50% cost of goods in that early stage of our retail price. So if we were selling it then for 50%, we're making zero money. In fact, going backwards because of the management, the detraction of time and focus, and everything else that goes along with it in terms of the management. Just be really aware, especially if you are even profitable on the wholesale side, just be really, really, really careful and aware of what am I actually sacrificing over here? What's my opportunity cost of trying to pursue this route? Okay, so they're the problems. That's us, and we pulled out of wholesale entirely after we figured that out. We said, nah, all of our attention needs to go into the direct to consumer online. We will figure that out. because sometimes it becomes a path of least resistance for us to say, I'm going to pursue this avenue here. I'm going to just send a few emails, make a few calls, walk into a few stores. Okay. It's probably because we're avoiding the hard thing, which is getting the online thing to crack, right? So again, just be really, really aware of that. So what's the solution? You need to focus on the one thing. If you're an e-commerce brand, if you want to make it and scale it to 10 all the way up to 100K per month and even beyond that per month online, you need to focus 100% online. Figure out the hard things, do the work, figure out how to get your marketing working, because that's what's going to drive it, not trying to do this shiny object over here, convincing yourself that, you know, it's good brand exposure in the store, or they're going to go to you online, or whatever it actually might be. That's just, you're telling yourself that to make yourself feel good. But if I'm being completely honest, you just need to wholeheartedly commit to your own retail, direct consumer, and actually make that work. And do what's absolutely necessary to crack that code. Because if you do this, I promise you it will work. Okay. Otherwise, if you try and split and hedge, it won't work. So this is what you need to do, because this is the advice I give my clients all the time. Give yourself at least 90 days, 3 full months. If you're still split between the two, I should do this, I should dabble here, I should do this, give yourself 90 days, treat it as an experiment, and say, I'm going to 90 days not do any wholesale, not think about wholesale, not think about distributors, and focus purely on my direct consumer online retail store, and basically use all of your energy, all of your concerted effort to make that thing work. I promise you, you will get your answer about what you should do next. I think most likely you'll actually get the results that you want. You'll see some breadcrumbs, you'll get some motivation, you'll learn some skills that you didn't have before, and really get the motivation to continue down that path. If it doesn't work out, that it's no result, it's absolute roadblocks, honestly, I would continue doing that if that's what you want to do. However, you have then the permission to say, okay, now I'm going to do the opposite to see if that was more fruitful or more profitable. Again, can the online, can the direct to consumer, the retail, and go wholesale and see what actually happens on that standpoint. But do not split your attention both ways thinking you can get away with it. Okay, because even the best of the best cannot get away with it. What they do is they master one thing, and then when that's ticking over, that's systemized, that's profitable, they might have a team, then they actually go to the other side and try and build that side of the business up. Okay, they never did both things at once and become masters at it. They do the one thing, make it successful, transition to the next. All right, so don't fall into that trap. It's an absolute fallacy. And as I said, you know, I've seen this over and over and over. We tried to do it. Luckily for us, we realized sooner rather than later that it wasn't actually profitable or viable for us. And this is the advice that I give to people all the time in our paid community. So that's my advice there. Don't do wholesale, don't do any distribution, focus on your D2C if that's where you actually want to get to. Not the shiny object syndrome, not the nice little, you know, rainbows and lollipops over here. Don't be tempted. You need to focus your efforts wholeheartedly on what's going to work, break through that pain barrier of trying to figure things out and crack the code, and you'll be way happier, way more profitable, way freer in terms of time, location, and stress than you would ever think possible, or what you actually have available if you did both routes, or especially the wholesale route. So that's basically all I wanted to go through and learn some lessons directly from me. Now, look, if you are an e-commerce business and you're struggling or plateaued, or just obviously want some more help to speed up your progress and success, I've got a link below. Feel free to click on it. It's basically a bit more about what we do, how we help e-commerce brands, and you can figure out if obviously you'd like to get some help from our team. But if not, no stress, obviously, it doesn't matter. It's just there if you obviously want to have a look at it. But other than that, thank you for making through this video. I really appreciate you being here and watching all the way to the end. And I obviously hope it got value from it. So other than that, have a really awesome day, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. See you then.